All right, so welcome back to the AM show, and time for us to bring you what the papers are reporting on the news review segment of the show. This segment is brought to us by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, they are offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening in Accra at Spintex opposite Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronoma Boy here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrade, we are at the Anaji Estate, Tema, in Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama. You can call us on 0244-867068, 0244-867068, or 0274-234321, 0274-234321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, then end to chronic diseases. Well, today we are lucky to be joined by the Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa, Mr. Sulemana Braimah. Good morning to you, Chief, and I hope you're well.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm doing well.
Great. So I have the Daily Guide newspaper, I have the Chronicle, the Finder newspaper, the Ghanaian Publisher, and the Custodian. Let's start with the Daily Guide newspaper. It says, darkness engulfs Accra. It comes with a picture of the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Henry Korte. I'll hand over power to NPP. That's according to the President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. 6 killed in gory accident. Ghana Health Service lift COVID-19 restrictions. And Priscilla Sankofa Gold is back. Okay, all right. Now let's turn to page 3. It says the President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has stated emphatically that he will hand over the baton of leadership of the country to a new patriotic party president in 2024 to sustain his splendid works in political office. Addressing a mammoth political rally in Kumawu on Sunday, he introduced the NPP parliamentary candidate Ernest Yao Enim for the Tuesday by-election to the people. According to him, his NPP administration has done a yeoman's job to put the country on a path of prosperity despite international shocks that have adversely affected world economies, which Ghana is included. President Akufo-Addo therefore stated that NPP would peacefully elect their next flag bearer, and the party would also go ahead to unite and campaign for their next leader to succeed him as president in 2024. Sounding very confident, he indicated that the citizenry are discerning, therefore they would definitely reward the NPP's good works by voting for the party's next flag bearer to lead the country in 2024. Quote, we have done the work already, and those who have eyes to see can see our positive works. But those who cannot see our good works, I'm sorry, I cannot help them. We shall hand over to NPP presidential candidate in 2024, end quote, he stressed. Well, Mr. Braimah, what do you make of this comment by the president that he believes in the work that his party has done, and therefore he trusts that the flag bearer that they would elect will go ahead and win the election in 2024, and that he will hand over power to an NPP government come 2025?
Well, I don't expect the president to say that he's done badly or poorly. I don't also expect the president to say that he expects to hand over to a candidate of any of the opposition parties. I think his expectations are that he would be handing over power to an NPP candidate. Those are his expectations, and those are his own assessments of his leadership. But certainly, there are people who would question the president's claim about how fantastic he's done in terms of his leadership. I think there are issues. Yes, we are in this crisis, and many other countries around the world are in a crisis of perhaps a similar nature. But given the circumstances in Ghana, given the endowments that we have in Ghana, I think that our circumstance is quite self-inflicted. We could have avoided what we are in now, or at least we wouldn't have dug ourselves so deep in the pit of economic crisis. But we find ourselves in a situation like this. I think that people are also going to remember the promises that were made and to ask whether they have been fully or even partially redeemed in terms of all the things that were promised. One district, one factory, one village, one dam, and all the things that were said. I believe that people are also going to recall that so much state money has been spent in digging a very huge pit around the parliament area. And buildings belonging to the state were pulled down in order for that pit to be constructed. And now the state may have to spend additional resources in filling up that pit. And so I think we don't have time to go into all the nitty-gritties, but of course, the government has also done a number of things. It's significant that we have a number of ambulances across the country, which was a promise. It's great that so many kids have had the opportunity to be in second cycle schools, even though I should say that the program and how poorly it's been managed has literally brought the quality of secondary education on its knees. There are kids who were in school for just about 2 months and have had to stay home for the next 4 months before they go back to school. So yes, a number of kids have gone to school. Maybe they wouldn't have, but quality has significantly been compromised. So yes, there have been a few things that have been done here and there, but people are also going to remember the difficulties that they are going through.
At the end of the day, from past experiences, which one will weigh higher than the other? Is it the current difficulty that people are going through, or probably, like you say, some of the things they've done rightly?
Well, at the end of the day, I believe that people are going to look at their circumstances, how well they are able to cope with living conditions. That certainly is going to be the biggest deciding factor. And I would say that, of course, the NPP by now would know that the scales are tilted against them because, I mean, since the Fourth Republic, no government has crossed the 8 years. And to cross the 8 years, perhaps it will require something significantly different being done by a government over an 8-year period. And I don't think that this government has done that. President Kufuor perhaps did that, and therefore the NPP had a brighter chance of winning the 2008 elections, but it didn't happen. And for 2024 elections, certainly the odds are against the NPP. If you look at the fact that, look, this is the end of 8 years for a government, people are struggling to survive economically. This is a government that lampooned the previous one over a number of things, including the IMF deal, and now they've had to go back to the IMF, even begging more than any other government has had to do to secure an IMF deal. This is a government that organized the Kenke Party by the Ministry of Finance to celebrate the fact that we had exited IMF just in 2019. And 2022, we had to be on our knees begging the IMF to come back with all the conditionalities. And I believe that the IMF program is going to now have the ramifications that we would see under an IMF program being rolled out. I think for now we are celebrating the fact that, 600 million has hit the Bank of Ghana accounts, but the implications are yet to be felt. And therefore, for me, of course, the party has about 1.5 years to do the magic, but otherwise the odds are certainly against the NPP.
Anyway, let's see if the remaining years can be used to really perform any magic. A bit on the Prisia Sankofa gold mines coming back. Now, the people of Prisia, an ancient mining town in the western region, have praised government for making the rejuvenation of the Prisia Sankofa Gold Limited its topmost priority. According to residents, the contribution of the gold mine to the Prisia local economy was enormous, and that it shut down in 2014 stored business and commercial activities in the once vibrant mining town. Prisia Sankofa Gold Limited is a state-owned gold mining company established in 1994 to extract gold mainly from old tailings. The company has not been operational since 2014, and several appeals by the resident on successive government to help revive it were allegedly not adhered to. However, the current president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in his electioneering campaign in 2016, promised the people of Prestea that the company will resume production under the next NPP government. So upon the assumption of the office, President charged a majority shareholder, which is the GMPC, to constitute a committee to ensure the company was revived. Now we are told the company has been revived and that the managing director has been appointed for the company in the person of Justice Aqua, who notes that the Prestea Sankofa Gold Mine is the only mining company that is wholly owned and operated by Ghanaians without expatriate involvement. We know how this mining industry works and we have experiences. Now that this company has been revived, what should be our approach to it such that we don't come back and talk about it collapse again?
Well, it's all about management and the goodwill that leadership would show. If it doesn't turn out to be another money-making entity for people and for those in leadership, then perhaps it would work. But if we look at the experiences so far, one cannot but have a bit of doubt as to whether this one would work. But yes, you don't want to write off anything. But I believe that at some point, AngloGold was a state-owned entity. At some point, we had to sell it. The telecom industry remains one of the most profitable industries in our country and around the world now that everything is almost going digital. We had Ghana Telecom that was literally Ghana-owned, and at some point, we had to basically sell our majority shares out. And I believe that there is still talks about even the shares that we still have in Ghana Telecom, or now is Vodafone, going. A lot of other state entities. We had Ghana Airways. Where is it? With Tema Oil Refinery. People are being paid. We are not refining oil. And Ghana Steel Company Limited, a lot of them. We had this sugar factory that has been in contention over a number of years now, political contention, I should say. So one would be, it remains less hopeful about, the state venturing into another business. But it is a different entity. It is about gold. If it is well managed, I believe that it can be as profitable as the other mining companies in the country. And as I said, it all comes down to management and commitment by leadership to ensure that it becomes a profitable entity that benefits the nation in terms of the monies that will be generated and the employment that will be created.
Okay. Now, just before we shift to another paper, maybe your brief thought on darkness engulfing Accra. Now, the story is that nights in Accra are no longer as bright as they should be, the reason for which is not far-fetched. Many of the street lights are out of order, the fluorescent tubes haven't been off for several months. Motorists who depend upon the illumination from the street light for navigation have to make do with partial or full darkness. This situation compels them to turn on the high light at night, making things difficult for vehicular traffic from the opposite direction. Your thought on it?
Well, that's the reality, and it's an unfortunate development. It is not just the street lights, but even the traffic lights. I can count a number of traffic, lights on my way to work that are not working. And these are major intersections. And it's not been not working for a week. It's been off for the last, 3, 4, 5 months. And that's really unfortunate. I don't know what is happening. I don't know what it takes to get these things fixed. But certainly the Greater Accra Regional Minister has been one of the top performing ministers of the Akufo-Addo government. But these things have to be fixed. It's really not the best for our capital.
Okay. Now, let's do the Chronicle newspaper now. And Baumia tells Kumawu voters petrol prices are tumbling because of the gold for oil policy. I won't disappoint you, Afriya Koto tells NPP executives. NPP, NDC descend on Kumawu Our win paramount chief was properly installed, according to Chidom Hene. Let's do this story. Now it says, okay. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has called on voters in the Kumawu constituency and Ghanaians in general to ignore the propaganda work of the National Democratic Congress that seeks to paint a gloomy picture of the country. According to him, when the opposition party led by former President John Dramani Mahama was in power, they could not introduce any sound policy to transform the national economy. But they were the same people going around the country to throw dust into the eyes of the people. Speaking at a mammoth rally at Kumawu yesterday to convince voters to vote for the NPP candidate in tomorrow's by-election, VIP Bawumia said one of the sound policies of the government that was really benefiting the masses was the gold for all policy. According to him, because of this sound policy they introduced somewhere last year, prices of petroleum products were beginning to come down. Now, tie into that story is the fact that big waves of both the ruling party and opposition party, NDC, have converged at Kumawu, capital of the Setre Kumawu district. They are desperately canvassing for vote for the parliamentary seat, which was declared vacant following the demise of Mr. Philip Atab Basua. The MP for the Kumawu constituency in the Ashanti region, Philip Basua, died on March 27, 2023. Now, there is a by-election tomorrow, and that all parties are canvassing for vote there. So, gold for oil is the reason why petrol prices are tumbling, and the fact that now all eyes are on Kumawu because of by-election tomorrow. What do you make of this? Is it really the case that if you look at the fact that fuel prices are coming down, we can really point our fingers to the gold for oil policy to say that this is the reason why this is coming down?
Well, I doubt. And when they say fuel prices have come down, I don't know from what level. As far as I know, it's around 11.5 or 11.8 or 9.
Yeah, it's from 11.3 to 11 points. I'm due 11.6, I'm due 11.7.
Yes, so I really don't know what they mean by fuel prices coming down. As far as I know, with the IMF intervention, the CD is around perhaps 10 point something now. In Rwanda, even in the banks, I believe it will be they will be doing less than that. So if fuel prices per liter now is around 11 point something, what it means is that currently we are buying petrol at more than $1 per liter. There was a time when the CD was around 14, almost getting to 15. So if at that time the price of petrol was around 14 cedis or 15 cedis, that was about $1 to per liter. So if we are still doing now even a little over $1 per liter, where is the reduction? I think these are just sometimes what I call the gimmicks to deceive the people. We should begin to face the reality. That's the only way we can develop this country, rather than thinking that we can be playing games like this, just basically to send sweet messages to the people.
I think they are saying so because it used to be around 14, 13, and now some people do 12.3, 11 downwards. And that's why they are saying that then the prices are coming down.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that when it was 12, 13, what was the rate of the dollar? Because at the end of the day, the cost of living of people. If somebody was earning 1,000 cedis a month and was then buying fuel at that rate, yes, today if it is reduced, it is better for that person. But the reality for me is that it all depends on the exchange rate. For example, if we are able to do a magic and the CD gets to about 7 to $1, and then petrol comes to about $8 a liter. Basically, because we literally import maybe the largest percentage of our petrol consumption from outside. And indeed, if you check the statistics, the highest importing commodity is the petrol and the associated commodities. And so it's about where the dollar is. I really haven't seen any significant impact that can be attributed to a policy like gold for oil. When it started, the messages that were being sent was as though because of that, petrol was going to come under, or fuel was going to come, say like 9 or 8 or 7. That was the impression that they created. And today we are basically hovering around the same figures, and yet they still would want to say because of that policy something has changed. I don't think that anything has changed.
Okay. Let's do the Finder newspaper now. Kumawu by-election is a test case for NPP's 2024 victory, according to President Nana-Addo. Dr. Akoto promises not to let NPP Ghana down. Enini Yeboah is an exceptional CJ, according to the president. Public debt drops by 141.1 billion cedis from 575.7 billion cedis to 434.6 billion cedis in December on the back of over 60% cedi appreciation. Aflao border GIS officers attacked, injured during night patrol. Now, the story on page 2 talks about the public debt dropping by 141.1 billion. It says the total public debt stock fell by 141.1 billion cedis in December 2022 to end the year at 434.6 billion cedis on the back of over 60% cedi appreciation. This is approximately 71.2% of gross domestic product, GDP. Data from the Bank of Ghana has revealed that the total public debt is equivalent to $52 billion. The summary of economic and financial data released by BOG for May 2023 shows that Ghana's debt in cedi term rose consistently to 575.7 billion cedis at the end of November 2022, representing about 93.5% of GDP. But it has declined significantly to 434.6 billion in December 2022. That should be a good news then, isn't it?
Of course, I mean, anytime the city does well, that is good for our economy. And essentially what it means is that if you owed, or if Ghana owed $1,000 to a foreign entity, and the city was around 14 to $1, what it meant was that you needed to exchange 14,000 cedis to be able to pay your $1,000 debt. And so now if the city has come to 10, what it means is that you basically can change 10,000 instead of 14,000 to pay the same $1,000 debt. In terms of the dollar, I mean the debt in dollar terms, it remains the same. But how much you need in your local currencies to be able to service that debt is what has come down. So again, that's the point that I was making, that in one breath, we want to do analysis to indicate how the exchange rate has made us gain. And in another breath, when fuel prices is coming down, we want to say that it is good for oil and not the cedi appreciation. So I think that our government has to be consistent and has to be truthful to the people. But as I said, if the dollar comes to about $5 to $1 today, what it means is that our debt in dollars, in cedi terms, would be perhaps more than 60% reduced, which would be good for all of us. And we would understand it that it is because the cedi has appreciated. And in the same way, fuel prices would then have to significantly drop, and we need to attribute that to the appreciation of the cedi, rather than trying to claim success of policies which really is not really succeeding or is not bringing any much. What is important is that the people must be told the truth. As the president said in Kumawu, Ghanaians are discerning. And therefore, when you are lying to them, they know you are lying to them. When you are being truthful to them, they know you are being truthful to them. So we shouldn't say that Ghanaians are discerning and yet think that we can fool them. What is important for me is that for this country to develop, our leaders must appreciate that the people are now full aware and they can analyze things for themselves. And therefore, what is important is to be truthful to them, to be honest to them, and to be sincere with them.
Okay. Let's do the Ghanaian publisher now. And our 2024 victory begins in Kumawu. Akufo-Addo declares, "I won't let you down." Dr. Afriyie Akoto fired up for NPP top job. Government must ban rice importation. That's according to Jospon. And BBNE MP chairman fight over album. Ghana left COVID-19 restrictions at all entry point. Now, the chairman of the Jospon group of companies, Dr. Joseph Sian Japan, has challenged Ghana to ban importation of rice just like what Nigeria did and has now become self-sufficient in rice production. He argued if Nigeria has done it, Ghana can equally do it and stressed There is no need to reinvent the wheel, but simply copy from the West African neighbor. Dr. Japan was speaking at a two-day Ghana Food Security Conference 2023 on the theme, Enhancing Food Security, the role of Ghanaian scientists at Gomoa Fete in the central region. After banning importation of rice, Nigeria made remarkable progress in rice production during the previous decade, surpassing Egypt with yearly production of 5.8 million tons. Now, if you follow the rice value chain and what we've been doing there in terms of the local rice, do you foresee a possibility of us surviving if we should ban local rice importation now?
Well, available data indicates that in 2021, Ghana's rice importation was to the tune of $552 million. I believe that rice, $552 million worth of rice which came in was consumed by Ghanaians.
Yeah.
And if that quantity of rice would come in to and we don't have a glut of it, what it means is that we are not at the point where local production can make us, can feed the population in terms of the demand for rice. I fully share the fact that we should get to a point where we should be self-sufficient in terms of our local rice production. But that would require the implementation of certain policies for maybe a certain period of time. We cannot do those problems. If we were to do that, we would have, a shortage of rice within the system. But if we want to do that, which is a good thing to do, maybe we have to roll out a policy and say, look, this policy should mean that in the next 2 years, we're not going to import rice. And it will require subsidies for local producers. It will require huge investment to beef up local production so that within, let's say, a year or two, we'll be self-sufficient in our rice production. Nigeria has done it. And I believe that with prudent policies, we should be able to do it. But it is not something that we can just abruptly do, because that would affect the system quite considerably.
Okay. Now, just before we wrap up, what's your take on what's happening in Kumawu ahead of tomorrow's by-election?
Well, Kumawu is in the Ashanti region. It's certainly a stronghold of the NPP, and I expect the NPP to win that elections. Of course, if you look at the 2020 election, the independent candidate, who is still contesting as independent candidate, got a significant number of votes. The late Basoa got a little over 13,000, and the independent candidate got around a little over 11,000. Yeah. So the gap was just about 2,000. So that really is the challenge. I don't think that the challenge is from the NDC. The challenge is really from the independent candidate. And that poses a lot of threat to the NPP, because it then threatens the one-man majority, or well, now perhaps it's two-man majority because of the recent decision on the
Assen North constituency.
But it still doesn't make it good if the independent candidate should win and decides, for example, that he's not going to do business with the NPP. So I expect the NPP to win. I can understand why they are putting a lot of effort in there, because the independent candidate indeed poses a lot of threat for the NPP. But what is important for analysts is going to be by what percentage is the NPP winning. I think that is what we're going to look at and say, did the NDC do well than they did in 2020? Did the independent candidate do well than he did in 2020? Or did the NPP do well in terms of the votes that will be garnered? That will be what, for me, is going to be important for analysis, and not whether NPP wins or not. I expect the NPP to win.
Grateful to you, Mr. Sulemana Braimah, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great week.
All right, now I have seen him, sir. And he is the Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa. We'll take a break here. We'll bring you sports afterwards. Do stay with us.